In 2011, South Sudan became the most recent newest state on the international stage. It was born out of years of civil war between the predominantly Muslim Arabs in the north and the more ethnically and culturally diverse people in the south. During that time, that desire for independence held all the different groups in the south together, but after independence, the south once again plunged into civil war. It's been almost 10 years since we've had a new state now, so what's next? Here are 5 possibilities. Statehood often comes from the desire for sovereignty, which is the ability for a state to control its own affairs, have control over its own destiny, and be seen as equal on the international stage. For a little bit more about nations, nationalism, and nation states, you can check out my 3-part series on nationalism here. And hey, subscribe so that you don't miss anything else in the future. But without further ado, here are those 5 possibilities for the next nation state. Possibility number 1 is Scotland. In 2014, the people of Scotland held a referendum for their independence, and the side that desired to stay in the United Kingdom won narrowly. And some of the major issues there were around agriculture, border control, and membership in the EU, with Scotland feeling that if they left the United Kingdom, well, maybe it might be hard to join the EU after that. However, ever since the Brexit referendum and the UK deciding to leave the United Kingdom, well, that independence talk is slowly growing again because, as we can see, Scotland voted overwhelmingly to stay in the European Union. And now that the United Kingdom is leaving, well, maybe if they want to stay in the EU, they have to separate. And so that independence movement may continue to gain more traction and we may see another referendum on the horizon. Option number 2 is Quebec. In Canada, the province of Quebec is made up of a majority of francophones, who in a lot of ways feel like they have their own national identity different from the rest of Canada. And most recently in 1995, the people of Quebec voted in a referendum to see if there was a desire for independence. And the no vote to stay in Canada won by the narrowest of narrow margins. It was exceedingly close. And in general, francophones feel inequality compared to the rest of English-speaking Canada, which leads to this periodically resurfacing nationalist sovereignty movement. However, in recent decades, that movement for total independence, total sovereignty has subsided a little bit as people of Quebec have seen the benefits of working within a united Canada, especially in terms of the economic help that Quebec can get from the federal government. The Bloc Québécois, the party that was driving that independence movement, still continues to have a lot of sway in Quebec, even though now a lot of their policy platforms have changed to just increased autonomy within a united Canada. Our third example is the region of Catalonia in northern Spain. Catalonians speak a different language from the majority of the people of Spain and feel a different national identity and feel uniquely Catalonian, to the point where in 2017, the people of Catalonia held a referendum to see that desire for statehood, and the yes side overwhelmingly won by 92%. However, the central government in Spain has deemed this referendum illegal, and this whole process started a major constitutional crisis, lots of protests, and in more recent elections, it was much closer between parties that want Catalonia to remain in Spain versus parties that want independence. In early 2020, however, the Spanish government and the government of Catalonia have started talks and negotiations about increased autonomy for Catalonians. The fourth possibility of the next new nation state is the state of Palestine. Now, Palestine already has a great deal of autonomy over its own territory, over its own people through the Palestinian authorities, but the region does remain under Israeli occupation. And over the last several decades, there has been a long process to try and finally settle that conflict in the region. The most promising idea is what's called a two-state solution, where at the end of the process, Palestine gets its own fully independent sovereign state and Israel gets its own fully independent sovereign state. One of the most promising periods in this process was the mid-1990s with the Oslo Accords between the Palestinian Liberation Organization and the government of Israel. In fact, the leaders of these two sides, Yasser Arafat of the PLO and Yitzhak Rabin of Israel, earned Nobel Peace Prizes for their efforts in trying to resolve these issues. However, things have deteriorated pretty severely since then. The continuing establishment of Israeli settlements in Palestinian territory, going against the UN Security Council resolution and international law, has definitely led to some animosity between Israelis and Palestinians, while on the Palestinian side, the actions of the militant organization Hamas, which is in charge of the Gaza Strip, has further also led to conflict and a deterioration of relations, which has made further progress in this peace process more difficult. However, because this progress has been happening for so long and this peace process is continuing to develop, maybe finally some of these issues in the region can be positively resolved. The fifth and final possibility for the next new nation state is the state of Kurdistan. The people of Kurdistan already enjoy an amount of autonomy in the Kurdish regions of Turkey, Iraq, Syria, and Iran. Kurds held a referendum in 2017 for independence, and the yes side there won by 92%. So overwhelmingly, Kurds feel like they should have their own sovereign nation state. However, because this Kurdish region lies in so many different nation states, there would have to be processes with each of those states to try and figure out where this new Kurdish nation state would be, and that would be a pretty significant process. However, Kurds have been invaluable in helping defeat ISIS, for example, and so there might be a lot of international support for the Kurdish cause moving forward, which could help the Kurdish cause to have that nation state. So those are some of the options for where the next nation state might be. Another possibility could even be the reunification of the Korean Peninsula. There's been increasing amount of pressure on the North Korean government to give up its nuclear weapons program, and so on. And so maybe we'll see a reunification there. Already in the Olympics, the two sides have been competing together as a gesture of good faith. So maybe the next nation state won't be a stateless nation being formed out of existing states, but maybe the next new state will be a reunification of two already separate states, because Koreans have a lot of national identity in common in the North and South. So those are the different possibilities. What do you think the next nation state might be? Again, there are lots of options. These 5 are really just scratching the surface of where the next new nation state might be. So maybe let me know in the comments of where you think our next country is going to come from. And thank you for watching, and we will see you again next time.